You may remember hearing about our next story when it happened, but actually seeing it on videotape is, to put it mildly, unforgettable. It places a young boy within reach of a wild and dangerous animal, and it reveals a side of nature that is often forgotten. It is truly an amazing video miracle. Visiting the wild animals at the local zoo on the Isle of Jersey in Great Britain seemed like a perfect Sunday outing for Brian the lion and his family.
I suppose we were only there about 5 or 6 minutes, and we moved over to the gorilla complex. Just as I was getting there, I heard a woman in distress sort of screaming, "My baby, my baby."
5-year-old Levon Merritt had fallen over the wall into the gorilla pit as his father Stephen watched in horror.
And I saw all this blood from the back of his head, and I didn't think, that we were going to get him out alive.
I was videotaping the gorilla, and I knew he was going to come down to the boy. My first reaction was that the gorilla was going to do something terrible, perhaps. It was just getting closer and closer. I don't think anybody knew what to do, because nobody could jump over the wall and go down there. It was such a height. Everything seemed to happen very slowly. The gorilla walked over to the little boy that was unconscious on the ground. And it was really a shock to know that this massive animal was leaning over this little boy.
I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Everybody was in panic. They were asking where the keepers were to get someone to help him to get the child out.
And they knew that I was his mother, so they wouldn't actually let me look over the wall. They took me round to the back and made me cups of tea.
This big one seemed to be protecting him, seemed to be keeping the littler ones away.
I was surprised that he just sat there and just looked up at the people. So obviously he was really interested and quite tame, really, towards the boy. The gorilla stroked him and sniffed him and pulled up his shirt with his finger to get the boy's scent.
It was a surprise that they seemed to be gentler than you expect. You think they'd go in there and try to tear someone to pieces.
Moments later, little Levon regained consciousness and discovered the frightening circumstances he was in. His terrified cries scared the older gorilla away.
He just wanted to get out of the way and went inside the main gorilla enclosure.
I heard him cry, so I managed to look over the wall. He had turned onto his back, and all I could see was just this mass of blood. It was just awful.
Zookeeper Andy Wood could hear the young boy's cries as he tried to lure the gorillas inside.
During the process, a young male shot outside. It was unavoidable, unfortunately. But at least we ended up with only one animal in the outside area. When I first entered the gorilla pit, I took a short stick with me as just a deterrent, perhaps to put him off from charging. I approached the child. He was semi-conscious, blood around his ears. He'd obviously taken a very hard hit to the head. I asked another zookeeper to come into the enclosure to assist me in case the young male got past me.
Paramedic Brian Fox was next to jump into the fray.
There was blood coming out of his mouth and his ear. While he's on his side and screaming, you've got time. But as soon as he went onto his back, you've run out of time. Then there is an immediate danger, because then he could choke on his own vomit or blood. But once I got him onto his side and was happy with that situation, I've got one eye on the Evan and the other eye on this gorilla running around.
He's coming this way.
He'd run in at times just to show that he's boss. and just make a noise and then run off.
The ambulance man was paler than anybody I've ever seen in my life. He was just drained. He's just looking. The young male was excitable, running up and down and charging about. In a situation like that where you've got an excitable gorilla, you perhaps have to be a little more bold than you would be normally. He's a very outgoing gorilla. I mean, very playful, very boisterous. That's his personality. Basically appears very, very aggressive, but most of it isn't. A lot of it's bluff.
With the gorilla running around, you couldn't go to the doors, which is right across the other side of the complex. And the only way out, quickly, and we had to be quick, was to come up on the rope. They lowered the rope down to me, and then 30 or 40 people just pulled me straight up the wall.
I think this is probably the worst thing that a parent can go through. I actually thought I'd raised a child to 5 years old, and that was it. That was the end of his life.
When the boy came up, there was a big cheer that he came out, and then they put him into the ambulance and rushed him to hospital.
He was in hospital for 3 weeks. He had a very severe skull fracture, and he's just got to be careful with his arm. But apart from that, he's just like any normal 12-year-old.
First time I saw the video, it was in hospital and I was on the news. When I was laying down on the floor, I remember looking up and seeing all the crowd's faces. I just remember looking around and seeing the big gorilla just sitting there. After that, I just fell back into unconsciousness.
The fact that the child was unconscious basically brings out the tenderness, the caring that's in a gorilla. I think he was very concerned for the child.
It changed a lot of people's views on gorillas after it happened. After I videotaped this, I went home and just had a look to see what I'd videotaped. Then it really sort of sunk into me what had really happened.
And what had happened was nothing short of a miracle. To have survived the 30-foot fall with only minor injuries was incredible. But the protective and caring nature of the giant gorilla was simply miraculous.
I hope that people who see this can understand a little more about the way gorillas work. They'll use their strength and their power when necessary, but not with children. They're nice, they're nice people, which is what I look on them as. I mean, they're just hairier than we are.